From the place where a baseball game can end in a draw, the island nation of Japan plays host to this, the fifth edition of the Snail Racing Community Race. Today's weapon of choice, the Skippy, the battlefield, Okayama International Circuit. And as always, all the action from green flag to victory donut streams your way live as it happens right here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Peace, good health, and Kenosha high up in the GSRC commentators booth to bring you our words eye view. Jack Morrell alongside yours truly, Bill Soups on, pushing the sliders and turning the knobs. Sean Ambrose and cameras located, aimed, zoomed, and focused by Dougie Beard. It's been well over a year now since Lawrence Rabbits introduced his wife Annie to the sport of sim racing, a testimony to the wonders of the iRacing platform. It took only 20 minutes before Annie decided she needed her very own iRacing subscription. On a lark, the couple decided to record Annie's racing progress so they could look back at it in the future for a bit of a laugh. And that is how the Snail Racing YouTube channel was born. Annie's personality and camera presence attracted subscribers, and as the sub count grew, Annie and Lawrence decided to create an online community for beginners and rookies where everyone could learn together. Today is the fifth community race to thank those subscribers for their support as they watch the continuing adventures of Annie on iRacing. Now, Snail Racing returns to a single class format, and what better choice of racetrack than the very familiar Okayama International Circuit.
So the Okayama.
And let's take a video look at the lap guide.
Welcome to Okayama International Circuit. Located an hour's drive northeast of its titular city, it sits nestled among the green lush hills in southern Japan. Built in 1990, it's most well known for the two visits Formula One made in 94 and 95. But since then, national and international touring car series have come to race here as well. Otherwise, the two available layouts are mostly used for club racing and amateur track days. The full course is just under 4 kilometers with 11 turns, and the short version is a measly 2 kilometers with 7 turns. It does this by cutting out the portion between Williams and Revolver. While hairpins abound throughout the lap, overtakes tend to be surprisingly hard. The first corner, Atwood Curve, and Hairpin are the main spots where drivers can attempt a traditional pass. Hairpin makes for unique battles though. The unusually steep banking for a road course, plus the switch back into Revolver, means that holding it around the outside can reward a brave driver. However, while it is a more modern facility, runoff in some places is shockingly small, and it can be easy to damage your car. This section in particular around Revolver, Piper, and Redmond gets slightly claustrophobic. The pit entry requires some practice since you must use the inside lane of Mike Knight, otherwise you'll get a penalty. While it might not see as much use in the real world, here on iRacing this track is part of the base content, and so new road racers will find themselves here frequently. With it being suitable for a wide range of styles of cars, it's sure to excite many of the competitors who tackle it.
Okayama! It's been welcoming new racers since the platform launched here on iRacing, and I've been welcoming new commentators to GSRC since the company first launched, and I get to do it once again here today. Jack, welcome to the booth.
Thank you very much, Soup. It's a pleasure to be here as always. And yeah, Okayama, it's a circuit that we've all come to know and love, whether it's in rookies or up into the VRS sprint heights, right up into the GT3 sort of machinery. But today, the 3 kilometer or 2.3 mile circuit plays host to these little skip barbers, and it's a circuit which is renowned for having such prestigious events. It's held the Pacific Grand Prix, the World Touring Car Championship, and Formula V6 Asia, so all world-class series. And today, obviously, we add to that. We've got the skip barbers up there with the heights of Formula One, and the circuit previously known as T Circuit Ida is a circuit which can be quite challenging with 7 corners to the right and 6 to the left. We need to be keeping an eye on hairpin corner at the end of the long back straight, and the last corner, dubbed last corner, could be quite a key corner because it goes onto the start-finish straight. So you need to make sure you get a good run out of there in these cars with only 150 brake horsepower. So every piece of momentum you've really got to make count. And then if you get a good run out of the last corner, you go up towards the first corner, formerly known as, well, first corner.
These are very creatively named corners indeed. Hey, you know, Okayama has been welcoming new drivers for a long time, but what I really want to talk about here is while this is indeed the 5th edition of the Snail Racing Community Race, the event details are never the same. So, Jack, what have the rabbits pulled out of their hat this time?
Well, for this community event, the 5th one, like we said, we are racing in the Skip Barber Formula 2000. Quite a tricky car to get a handle on. We know it slides a fair bit with 150 brake horsepower, a 4-cylinder, 2-litre engine, and a 5-speed sequential gearbox. They get 1 fast repair, which let's hope they don't have to use, but in the eventuality of an incident, you do get 1 fast repair, and we've got a 40-minute race to look forward to where everybody will get to show off their setups as well, because we do have an open setup race today, and I think they might have limited the fuel cell size, so we will have 1 required pit stop just to throw a spanner in the works for anybody that's driving away with it. So lots of strategy will be out on show today, and we've got 40 minutes worth of wheel-to-wheel racing to look forward to.
Indeed, a pit stop for beginners and how much fuel to take can be a bit of an art. And while we have some veterans here who have it down to a science, it should be fun to see how that pit stop works out. Last piece of business to take care of. I look at the fans out there. They seem in nice, comfortable attire. Let's look at the weather, Jack, and see if they dressed appropriately.
As we look at the weather now, we've got a 24-degree centigrade air temperature, pardon me, and a 29-degree centigrade track temperature, which by all accounts is quite a nice low temperature, so the drivers will have plenty of grip to play with. We've got a southwesterly wind, so whether that will make much of an effect on these cars, I do not know. But it looks like that with the track in the state that it is, it's starting to rubber in with that 1 hour of practice. So the drivers, I think they're going to have quite an easy ride going into the start of this race.
Okay, I am metrically challenged. I'm over here in the U.S. What does that temperature play out for me? What do I wear to the track? Oh, look at that. Look what they've done for me because I'm an idiot. Thank you. 85 degrees track temperature, 76. Thank you, director. Boy, our director, he can do anything for me. Nice job. All right, we got all the business out of the way. This is a fun race today. There are no points involved. It's just a good chance to come out here, get a little bit of racing in the Skippy, which, Jack, I don't know about you. I like the Skippy. Skippy's fun to race.
Yeah, I've started to get more and more familiar with it as my iRacing career goes on. But I think the main reason why I always go back to the Skippy is it puts you back to basics. It makes sure you control how aggressive you are. You learn how to drive as smoothly as possible and keep the momentum up, and that can be put right up to the top leagues of iRacing. Even in the iRacing Tag Heuer Porsche Esports Super Cup, you can use what you learn in a Skippy. Some of the skills are compatible with the top level series, and I think that is just a perfect training tool, and it's great to see that it's still being used today. A car that has been on the service for a very long time, and it's still right up there with the most popular machines on the iRacing service.
27 drivers have their names on the entry list. Of course, the 2 we're going to keep an eye on, I don't see them out on the track. Car number 005 is Annie. Car number 027, that is Larry. Don't see them out there. They have put in qualifying time, so I guess we are good to go with them. They're going to make it. You know, you talked about the track. For me, the one corner that gives me an incredibly hard time, maybe because it was one of the first tough corners when I first started iRacing, and that's corner 10. I think it's called Mike Knight corner there. And for me, the apex might as well be in witness protection because I can't find it. So we'll see how these youngsters learn to deal with that corner. It is a tough one for me.
Yeah, I think the circuit does promote that sort of racing. You've got to find every single little piece of time, and like you say, if you miss an apex, it will cost you dearly, not just in any car, but specifically in these cars. We mentioned the amount you've got to control the momentum, and whether you get on the throttle a fraction of a second earlier than a fellow driver, you'll get that extra drive going down the straight. And a corner that I think I struggle with is Atwood Curve, probably the most important corner on the entire circuit, the one that leads up to this the very long back straight. I can never quite get that right. I'm either too wide or too tight into the corner, so it'll be interesting to see how the drivers approach that one today.
Make a mistake in corner number 4, you pay for it for a long time, because especially in these skippies, that is a long back straight. And when you talk about straights, you got the long back straight, but you also got the one between 2 and 2 through the Moss S, which really isn't much of an S, into 4. You got the front straight, and then that little straight between Piper and Redmond. Lots of good passing opportunities here. It should be entertaining. Qualifying is done. Let's go to the grid right now. Sitting on the top, it's a veteran here at GSRC. We've seen him before. Pete Mabrodin. He's going to be flanked by Ross Verruri. Marcus Triton sits in the 3rd spot with Mike Risha outside of him. Brian Levette is in 5th with Charles Kellyman flanking him. 7th and 8th goes to Jake Atchie and Dennis Jacobson. And then row 5 is populated by James Cook and Nils de Burgh.
Going on to the next 5 rows of the grid, we've got Darren Bartz lining up in 11th position, then Hendrik Anderson. Roger Morton starts in P13, followed by Colin Breen, then Paul Bishop, Dennis Pedersen, Michael Jones, Arjun Kramer, and then we've got Kevin Wallman, and then Annie, the first of the Annie and Larry's. Annie lines up in 20th position.
When you're married, you ordered your baked potato the same way, and apparently you get gridded next to each other in iRacing. Andy Rabbits in 20th, Larry Rabbits in the blackjack position. Sean Randall behind him, the double duck spot. Alan Toon, Alex Gregaris, Timothy Fliss, Jerome Eteni, and D. Smith. You can hear the engines beginning to rev. The cars are stocked full of Shell gasoline. They're ready to plug it out. And now it's time to escargot. Pete Mabrodin leads him down into the first corner. It is Josh Very right behind him. Risha in 3rd position.
Yeah, so everybody, by the looks of it, has managed to get through the first part of the circuit unscathed, which definitely is a challenge in these open wheel machines. But it looks like everybody has managed to do it. You can see the cars nose to tail almost 3 wide going into outward curve, and on lap 1 that is very, very brave stuff from everybody else on circuit. But we've still got Pete in the lead behind or in the number 15 machine behind him. We've got Ras Fury. I think we're going to have a look back at Jake Ashy in a moment, because it looks like he's side by side with a few of the cars further back, and I don't really know where to look at this point, because there's so many little skip barbers all side by side, all battling for position.
All right, it's oom-pa-pa time as the accordion effect takes effect as they head down into the hairpin. Tip of the hat to all the drivers. So far, we are clean through a couple technical sections. Now we get to the technicals part up here, some more twisty sections. Meanwhile, Mabrodin is really pulling away. It looks like it's going to be a 2-car race early on, as the front 2 have broken the draft.
They really have, and I think that's what they've
got
to
it's been driver in 3rd. It was Mike Risha. He was under pressure to keep up with the front 2 that were pulling away. That was right outside of Piper.
Yeah, so we
look at that one again a little bit later on. Go ahead.
Final couple of corners to tick off lap number 1. But I think that was the only mistake we saw. Oh, there's 2 cars sideways in the background. I can't quite figure out who that was that made the initial mistake. We've got a car backwards. I think there's even more contact. That's gone from a 2-car pileup, possibly to a 4.
It's Larry Rabbits, car number 25 on the straightaway. He lost it out of the car number 27. He lost it out of the final corner and then got punted. We'll come back and look at all of these. We may take a look at the first lap when we have an opportunity. Meanwhile, it is now turning into not a 2-car race. It might be a 1-car race. We were a little worried about this in the opening, Jack, that Mabrodin might be a little overqualified for this event.
Yeah, possibly it is a worry, but it does look like Ras Fury behind is keeping him honest at this point. Very little separating the 2. And they're still starting to build that gap, but they've done a really good job of battling nose to tail and then building the gap. So I think at the moment they're trying to communicate with each other, just keep on pushing even further up. We look behind them now, just a little further back at Marcus Tainton and Brian Levitt. And this is now a 3-car battle for what will be fifth position respectively, between the number 999, the number 10 and the number 67, I believe. But they've got to make sure they don't slow each other down too much, because there's a massive train of cars there to pick up the pieces if anything happens.
Working now lap number 2. Wait for everything to cycle through as Mulbrodden continues to race. We're already doing a good job of staying with him in car number 24. We'll take a look at those incidents a little bit later, or they happened earlier in a second when we get an opportunity. Boy, they are really beginning to cycle single file now. All right, let's go ahead and look at the first incident, and we can probably just stay on it and just move over to Larry when we're done because it happens soon after. We're looking at Risha. He was racing in 3rd position at the time.
So let's see what happened here. He comes out of Piper Core. Oh, no, we've caught back up again. He's going down the back straight in towards the hairpin. Let's see what happened. We're looking at the black car with the blue flashes. Then we see him weaving his way through Revolver Corner, then on his way up to Piper. Let's see what happened. It looks like he might have over-rotated the car a little bit on the way in. Collects that moment up, so we'll have to keep an eye out now on the run up to Redmond Corner. So it's all under control so far. And then I think maybe he planted his foot a little bit too early, hit the loud pedal, and threw the car through 180 degrees, and this is where he's just got to wait for the train to come through, losing even more positions. Does the right thing, reverses off the racing line and rejoins the track safely. And now, Sue, we're looking at Larry.
This is Larry Rabbit's. This is out of the final corner. The car gets a little bit loose, and then somebody gets into the back as he heads down into the main straight. And if there is bad luck to be had, Larry Rabbit seems to find it. Here we go, right here. In fact, maybe he gets a little bit of help out of that final corner. Then he comes around, he gets it straightened out, and they find him. To the leader, who has opened up quite a lead now. It's only about 7/10 of a second, but he begins to inch away from car number 24.
Yeah, he's doing a good job so far to build up that gap, but now back down to this battle for the last spot on the podium, and it's slowly starting to separate back into a 2-car battle between Marcus Tainton and Brian Levitt. They've managed to drop off the attentions of Charles Kellyman, but even still, if they get this breakaway, they can't play around with each other too much at this point in the race, because we're only 5 minutes into the race, and if they lose too much time, they will lose yet more positions. We're now going to go back to 8th position because there's a train of cars here, all nose to tail, going onto the back straight, and this is where, what you mentioned, Sue, with the draft effect, this is where you really pick up the positions on the run up to the hairpin. So by the looks of it, it's James Crook leading the way. That's a massive incident there, a big hit in the tail end. I think that was Nils Burr who managed to collect the tail end of somebody. Who was that? So let's see what happened. This is Jake Ashie, and he gets a big hit in the... I think that was Jake Ashie actually braking so hard to try and avoid an incident. He managed to get collected. I think that was Nils Burr who got caught out on the brakes there, but Jake Ashie doing everything he can to avoid an incident and sadly caused one. And then there's another bit of contact there going through Redmond Corner. Not 100% sure who that was, but now it was D. Smith who I think collected or cut off the nose cone of somebody else in the green car with the yellow flashes. With yet more calamities. It seemed like the first lap everybody was taking it easy, but now everybody is 100% going for it, picking up the positions while they can. If they can pick up a position now, going into the pit window that they will have to take, you may as well go into the pits a position ahead of where you want to be. So by the looks of it, everybody's just putting their foot to the floor, picking up the positions where they can. And with this being a 40-minute race, I wasn't quite expecting this sort of progression. Only 8 minutes in.
Yeah, that was D. Smith and Paul Bishop who got together, and of course we saw Ashie have trouble. That was too bad. Ashie was having a good run. He's qualified in 7th, was racing up inside the top 10. The first lap, you said it, Jack, it was nice and clean on the first lap. The second lap got a little bit messy. Now, one thing we have to talk about, you might think that Mulbrodden may be able to run away with this, but one of the elements of this race, there are fast repairs. And what that means is drivers who have an accident will come back out and clutter up the track a little bit more. So Mulbrodden will have to deal with some drivers that usually would, the the herd would thin, but that's not the case here. Is we're going to have a lot of busy activity out there. Right now, he's got a pretty clean track in front of him and a pretty comfortable lead at 3.2. Boy, he has broken the draft, and he's just on a Saturday night drive for him.
I think that is the end goal. You can see using all the track there, even clipping the gravel, so making the most of the track limits here. But in this Skip Barber, it's perfectly under control by the looks of it. You can see the car's just balanced and it's comfortable and confident going into the corners. And another fastest lap from P, a 1 minute 43.798. So only going quicker here. He's extended the gap yet again. And I think this is going to be pretty much the story of this race. If he can continue on, make sure he nails his pit stop and doesn't get caught up in traffic, it's going to be a walkover for Pete. But we've still got 30 minutes of the race to go.
Car number 005 is Annie. Now she's got herself a little bit of a lead here as she's ahead of Kevin Whalen, who's trying to close in on her. They work through the first corner, heading down into the sweeping left-hander, and then we open up onto what I'm going to call a straight, this interval between 2 and 4. There is called the Moss S's in here, but there's really not very much in this Skippy. Behind Whalen is Michael Jones, and then also looking in there, Paul Bishop. Now, Bishop got into it with D. Smith earlier, but the car seems to be fine.
Yeah, I think this Barber with the downforce or lack thereof, it can continue on. But look at this battle here. This is Dennis Jakobsen trying to defend from Darren Bartz, going through the middle sector of the circuit between Revolver and Piper Corner. Now Dennis, wearing that ex-Jordan livery, clearly giving him an extra couple of horsepower. He managed to fend off the attentions of Darren. We're now looking on board with Darren so we can see what he sees. You can see Dennis in front sliding his Skip Barber Formula 2000 round Hobbs Corner, trying to build that gap, and it's starting to come out once again. I think it's very much an accordion effect between the pair. They slowly start to get closer. Look how much Darren closes up on the corner. As soon as we get on the straight, Dennis pulls that gap once again, and I think this is what he's gonna have to deal with for this entire race.
Certainly is a battle between north and south. As Jakobsen racing in the Scandinavia and Dennis Bartz in the Australian club. Now we'll go up and look at the battle for third.
This is Marcus Tainton, who's managed to work his way past Brian Levitt, I do believe, now going round outward curve onto, is this outward curve? It is indeed, going onto the back straight, arguably one of the most important corners on the circuit. DRS boards there, although I doubt these Skip Barbers do have DRS enabled. But Marcus Tainton, he's done the hard work in Sector 1. He's picked up the position, but now he's going to be under pressure from Brian going up towards the hairpin corner. It doesn't look like Brian has got enough time in hand to look up the inside. Sits behind him, sits in the draft, and it might be what he needs to do, just to keep the pressure on and maybe force Marcus into a mistake.
Thought maybe he might put the pressure on there, but it looks like he didn't want it. Boy, he gets a horrible exit out of Revolver, losing a little bit of time. Now through Piper. This is actually a passing zone. If you can get a good run out of 7, down into Redmond, which is 8, not going to happen here. We've been jumping around a little bit, so let's stay on this one, because last lap it was actually Titan who was it was the car behind, was side by side. Levitt was right behind trying to make the pass. Let's stay on it as they head to the front straight.
We're now looking at this battle once again between Darren Bartz and Dennis Jakobsen, and it's now Darren who has managed to get in front of Dennis, and we saw Dennis start to build up that gap, but it clearly wasn't enough. Another fastest lap set by our leader, a 1 minute 43.684, so he's only getting quicker as the race wears on. But Darren, he's done the hard work once again. He's now back in front, but how long that lasts, we don't know. Because look at the overspeed Dennis has got. He looks to the inside at the first corner, throws it up the inside. Darren looks for the cutback on the run up to Williams, and it looks like Darren has got the position made already. And this is proper racing. I would expect nothing less from Skip Barbers.
Gave it a little bit of the hokey doke there. Got the pass made, but then lost it. So back out in front, it is Jakobsen.
Yeah, so Jakobsen now back in front of Darren, the red machine, slowly starting to build up that gap once again. But then we get back to this long back straight. I think the gap has come out just enough, so it won't be Darren having to defend, or Darren Darren won't have the time in hand to get the position made on the brakes, but with Dennis now in front, he is in the driving seat. He's the one that has got to put in these quick, clean, consistent times and build up that gap. But Darren now has the attentions of James Crook and Colin Byrne to defend with as well. But already 15 minutes of the race gone and only 26 minutes of the race still to go. We're seeing lots of nose-to-tail battle, wheel-to-wheel action, and we've still got a pit stop to be made, so this race is far from over.
Let's stay on this battle because they're coming up on Sean Rendell, who's going to have to racing in 26th position. He's got 4 cars behind him. Let's see how the driver in the number 112 gets out of the way. It's going to be Bartz first and then Jacobson. All the nonsense between Bartz and Jacobson has allowed James Crook to get up there. Crook hoping to steal a few positions, pardon the pun. And then we go to Colin Byrne, who's been back there watching everything happen in 9th. Look at that. How about a tip of the hat there to Sean? Well done as he lifts and lets 2 cars by. And he's going to be able to let Crook by as well.
Yeah, so it's great to see that even though you are one of the lapped cars, you are letting the drivers by. But the good thing is, if you are a lapped car, you can let them by and maybe sit on and gain a little bit of time. But it's now Darren back in front, and he's managed to hold this position for a nice amount of time with Jakobsen following along. But like you said, they can't spend too much time battling each other and getting preoccupied because James Crook is right there to pick up the pieces, and then the number 3 is just behind James as well. So this can very, very quickly turn from a 2-car battle, possibly even into a 4-car battle. The leader has yet extended his gap even more, and I was sort of hoping to see a little battle between Pete and Ras at the front end of the field, but sadly not. A little bit of blinking there for Darren. That can be quite off-putting, not just for him, but for Dennis as well. It's very hard to race a car which you can only see for 50% of the time, but it looks like Dennis is managing to cope with it just fine.
All right, we're looking at car number 8 now. This is Arjun Kremer. He's in 12th position. He's got Mike Reese just ahead of him. These guys are not that far behind. Well, there it is, Sean Rendell again, who's going to have to get out of the way. Let's go ahead and stay on.
I'm going to have to cut across you, Steve. Sorry, but Darren Bartz, I think he spun in the road and was collected by Jakobsen. He's returned to the pits. Let's have a look at the replay. So this is on the run up to Redmond Corner, or going through Redmond Corner. He spins his car through 90 degrees, parks it in the middle of the road. Jakobsen with nowhere to go, Colin with nowhere to go. And I think that will put an end to the battle. Darren is still sat in the pits as we speak. He does have an iRacing fast repair, but he has got to sit and take that tow before he will be able to get a factory fresh car, and that's not really what we wanted to see, because it was great racing between the pair of them, and one little mistake has put an end to it.
I think quick though, James Crook, who was involved in that incident, is probably in his pit window, was able to limp the car to pit lane and gonna go ahead and just get a clean car and make his pit stop at the time. Now we'll look at 7th position. This is Byrne under attack from Pedersen.
Yes,
Pedersen
so
doing a good job right behind him.
Yeah, Pedersen is the one that has got all the work to do, because they are now approaching Jakobsen, who was just involved in that incident. A little bit of damage aboard his Formula 2000, but now look at this. This is Byrne. He's got to defend this, but I don't think he's that bothered actually, because Pedersen's thrown it up the inside. No major fight back from Byrne, and going into the pit window, I think he might just be focusing on managing his fuel, managing his tyres, and making the most of it. But a position lost there for Byrne, promoting Pedersen up into 7th position overall. But they do have Jakobsen just ahead, carrying that damage, so he might be a little bit slower. So although Pedersen has got the position made, he might lose all the time he's just gained behind the recovering Jakobsen. I think, though, if we keep an eye on this battle, we've now got Pedersen looking up the inside here, so the number 5 machine picking up yet another position. And Colin Byrne coming around the final corner now, onto the start-finish straight to tick yet another lap in the book. Jakobsen on the fight back. You saw him dip into the draft, trying to get as close as he can to the side of Pedersen, but I think to no avail. Yeah, so it's now Pedersen remaining in P6. Jakobsen fighting back, trying to get the position made. Byrne has pretty much come into this battle through no fault of his own, trying to defend from Pedersen. And now look who's behind. We've got Mike Grisha following along. We're now looking back from Pedersen, so you can just see how close Jakobsen is. He's starting to build up that gap nicely. That's the cushion you need, knowing full well that Jakobsen will be preoccupied in his mirrors for almost a change of position in the background. I think that's Risha looking up the inside of Byrne, but Byrne held the momentum around the outside and remained in position for the moment, though, because we are on this back stretch and we know how powerful the draft is in these Formula 2000s. Now,
This battle, I just want to talk about one driver, car number 78. Remember James Crook? He came in and made his stop. He's in 22nd position, actually 21st now. He's the leader of all the cars who have pitted. Don't want to forget about him. Could be the case of the early peel, late reveal. I think he's probably in his window, so he's probably good to go from here. As we have, as I say that, he's coming in. No, our leader's coming in.
yeah, so our leader coming in for his mandatory pit stop. He was followed in by somebody else as well. Who was that followed him in? That was our
second place driver.
Yeah, that's Fury has followed the leader in, so on very similar strategies, which I think this is now going to play into the hands of Tainton, who now takes the lead on the road. But after all is said and done, I'm expecting him to return back to P3, but he's been followed through by Brian Leavitt. So now a new leader for the moment, but now we see the leader leaving the pit lane. So where will he come out? He's in P4 at the moment. Make that P5 because that's Jakobsen peeling by now. And there is Rasfiori leaving the pit lane. The gap going into the pits was around, I think it was probably, well, it was just over 10 seconds. But now leaving the pit lane, let's see what the gap is. I think he might have lost a little bit of time there. And this is where everybody shows their hand, because look at all these cars diving into the pit lane. Look at that. That's a very busy pit lane, Soup. And like you say, we're getting to the point in the race where everybody has got to sort of reveal their strategy.
Yeah, if I was Viori right behind Mobrodin when he comes in there, we're not racing for points. I would have just gone as soon as he came out, short filled, stayed behind him in the draft to see if I could have milked the car around. You're not going to do anything from second position unless Mobrodin gets caught up in something. Now we're back up front looking at the leaders.
Yeah, so back up at the pointy end of the field. This is Tainton still with the attentions of Brian Leavitt, so the number 10 machine trying to work his way into the lead. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the pair of them peel into the pits this time by. There goes the leader, so Marcus Tainton diving into the pits this time. And Brian Leavitt is going to inherit the lead, so he will have to pit very, very shortly because he's gone from P4 all the way up to P1 in the space of one lap. Pete, our original leader, Morbritton, is coming through the final section of the circuit with the attentions of Jakobsen. Now, there is the Jordan liveried machine of Dennis Jakobsen involved in that earlier incident, still with damage aboard his Skip Barber. He's still doing a great job though, battling up there with the fastest car of the lot, and we now go on board with Jakobsen. An amazing camera angle we've got on show here, Sue.
Yeah, what these guys, what our leader's hoping for right now is that iRacing implements the rain program, and this race is called, although the Skippies would race in the rain anyway. With a pit stop to go, he's going to be in tough shape. Great onboard camera here as we look at Jacobsen back racing in third, but of course he still has a stop to make.
He does indeed, but this could give him that extra little bit of boost, just knowing full well that he has got the pace and the ability to keep up with the leader, and he might not be aware that he's got damage on that car. I'm sure he knows that he did collect the spinning Pedersen, I think it was at the time, but he is continuing on, and we'll have to have a look at our leader very shortly just to see whether he's going to come into the pit lane this time by, because we saw him inherit the lead of Pedersen on the lap prior, so we'll have to keep an eye on him. He's now going through Redmond Corner, so not long for him to the side. We're still on board with Jakobsen. Looks like he's controlling the car very nicely. He's been showing off exactly what I said, and I think our leader has actually run out of fuel. I think that's Leavitt losing lots and lots of time. There we go. Look how slow he's going into the pit lane. He's run out of fuel. I did say it would be tight, and yeah, he's out of fuel.
Cinderella has a curfew. He can only stay at the ball so long. The clock struck 12, and luckily, I think he's going to get it in before he turns into a pumpkin. But that's going to hurt him as far as any chance of scooting out in the mix with the guys who were pitted earlier.
Yeah, so such a shame for Brian. It was all going so well for him. He inherited the lead, but sadly to no avail. Now Pete once again inherits the lead. He's got Alan Toon behind him. He is one of the lapped cars, so Alan getting out of the way very nicely. But this gap from Pete to Roger Morton, who I think has pitted already. He might have got the jump on Rasfiori, maybe. Actually, no, I don't think Roger has pitted just as yet. So the number 25 machine still yet to pit, but the lead gap between original P2 and P1, Rasfiori and Pete Morton, is back up to 11 seconds. So Pete Morton getting a perfect pit stop. We'll have a look back, I think, to Alan Toon just to see how he's going to get out of the way, because he's let the leader by, but he's only got more and more traffic to let through.
After the pit stop, it broke up a lot of the battles. We'll give you a run through the field here for a minute. Now, Larry Rabbits had a rough opening lap. He's back out there. Annie's right behind him. And actually, this is a battle for position.
It is indeed battle for 16th overall. This is Annie chasing down Larry, so the number 005 chasing down the number 27, and Annie sliding the car through Atwood Curb, and it looks like she might have picked up the better of the runs there, continuing onto the back straight, and you can see she's gaining very, very marginally, but she might just be out of draft range here, so I don't think she'll be picking anything up. She has got the attention, so I think that's Darren Bart's behind. So she's got to be careful she doesn't overdrive the car trying to catch up with Larry, because Darren Bart's will be there to pick up a position. But it's great to see, even after the pit stops and still with 15 minutes of the race still to go, we are still getting some battles slowly evolving into some nice wheel-to-wheel racing.
Look at this battle for second position. Now, after the pit stops, this is Rory, car number 24. He is just racing in here with Roger Morton. Now, Morton, I'm still showing, has not stopped yet. So I'm not sure why we had the driver that ran out of fuel earlier. They should have had enough gas unless these are fixed. These are open setups, so I guess, but it's not going to matter here, as Fiori's going to make the pass.
Yeah, so there goes Fiori regaining his second position, but it is interesting to see. I'm glad you mentioned that it's an open setup, because it really does shine a light on on how Morton is continuing on. I'm assuming he will have to pit very, very shortly, because there is that one pit stop required. So he will have to decide when to take it. The result clothing machine, the red and white car with the yellow flashes, Roger Morton. He was in a good position for a long while, started 13th, now down, or now up into third position, so in a podium place, but he, like you say, he has still yet to pit. I think Marcus Tainton and Charles Kellyman will pick up the positions off him. He might actually leave the pits with James Crook hot on his case, but still Rasfiori continues on, and there we go. Roger Morton peels into the pits this time by and puts pay to his setup. He has to fuel this time by, and he will come out of the pits with just under 13 minutes of the race still to go.
Go ahead, we'll take it. Looks like Jakobsen has had an issue. Look at this, if we ride on board with Byrne, this is Jakobsen up ahead of him. He gets a little bit loose, he goes by. Jakobsen does a good job of saving it.
Does indeed, controls the car perfectly well and joins the circuit as safely as possible, but like you say, he has lost that position now to Colin Byrne, so Dennis out of the top 10, not what he wants this late on in the race. So now he's got all the work to do to get back into the top 10. Even though there are no points available, you are still racing for bragging rights, I'm sure, within the varying servers that these guys are in. But Jakobsen now hot on the heels. We've got Roger Morton. We've just seen him dive into the pits. He's now left the pits in P9, so he's in front of this battle. I think, is that Brian Leavitt following on as well? So Brian Leavitt is leading this train, followed by Colin Byrne, then Dennis Jakobsen, or it's Brian Leavitt followed by Roger Morton, then Colin Byrne and Dennis Jakobsen, all nose to tail. That's a 4-car battle for what is P8 overall. And once again, Jakobsen is dropping back yet more, even after that slight off. I don't think he's got the pace to continue on. But still with... So Mo Broughton here, he has set another fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 43.301. So going even quicker, he's extended his lead gap to 14.1 seconds, and then from second back to third, there is another 14 seconds, or best part of 15 seconds now. So the lead gap getting ever bigger, and the battle we were just looking at has extended out even further as well. So we've got to that point in the race where people have started to spread out, sadly enough. I think this is, if we have a look at that battle we were looking at in a few moments' time. So we've got Brian Leavitt still leading this battle. However, he's built that gap up to the tune of about a second over Roger Morton, who is clinging on by a hair though, because he's starting to lose time to Brian Leavitt, but he's starting to pull away from Colin Byrne, and Dennis Jakobsen is slowly disappearing into the distance as well. So we've got to that point in the race where maybe the setups have started to show themselves as well, because like what Soup says, this is an open setup race, and Dennis Jakobsen sideways into the outward curve, which is the most important corner on the circuit. I'm going to keep reiterating that. If you lose any momentum there, it's going to haunt you all the way down that straight. You might lose a tenth at the corner, but it'll be a good couple of seconds by the end of the straight, especially if you don't have the draft assistance. But Dennis, it's not been a great race for him. He started in 8th, he's now down in 11th. I think the biggest mover in the field as we look at it is going to be Dennis Pedersen. He started 16th, up now into 6th position, and he has got the attentions of Jake Achi though, because Jake Achi is just behind him. But Pedersen has done a great job so far. He will be able to see James Crook up the road. There we go, we can see him flinging his way into Mike Knight corner. But Pedersen, he's got to remember that if he makes a mistake, he will lose that position to Jake Achi, and then if it's a big enough mistake, there will be that 4-car battle we were just looking at to pick up all the pieces as well. And now we just tick under the 10 or under the 9-minute mark, so 9 minutes of the race still to go, and still cars battling for position, albeit not as close as we'd like to see them, but they're still within a second, which does mean that they are within that all-important draft range.
All right, we're looking at this battle for 12th position. This is a dogfight going on. This is Kremer, and going loose and losing it, that's Buell. He was charging and going on the outside of Kremer, couldn't make a stick. Risha was right behind him, and going off into the sand was Niels de Buell.
Yeah, so
De
Niels
Boer.
de Boer.
Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, Niels de Boer spinning there, slightly overdriving the car, I think, but he's lost a fair few positions there. Lost out to Annie Rabbit, lost out to Kevin Varlan, lost out to Mike Risha, and I think he was trying to battle Kramer and lost any opportunity to get it back as well. So going back up to Kramer now, he's got the attentions of Mike Risha now. So the all-black machine looking to the inside, into the hairpin, late on the brakes. Can he get the move done? He can indeed on the way in, but can he remain in P11 on the way out? I think he can. Yep, so that's Mike Risha promoting himself up to P11. And Arjen Kramer now down into P12 by the looks of it. Oh, sorry, Arjen Kramer down into P13. Mike Risha is up to P12, so another position gain for Mike. He has had a rotten race so far, because he started in 4th, believe it or not, and he's now right the way down in 12th position, but he's picking up as many positions as he can, but with only 7 minutes of the race to go, I don't think it will be enough.
Let's get a little screen time to the drivers that were still on the lead lap while we can. We'll go to 14th position, car number 042. This is Kevin Whalen. Back here, he's going to comfortably finish on the lead lap, I think. If we go back one more car, back to car 005, there's Annie doing a good job to hang on to 15th position. She is being chased by Niels de Boer, who just had that off. Niels is back in 16th. Drop back to car number, let's see, from 16th, we go all the way back then to 17th spot, which would be Jerome Atteni. There's a name we know. In car number 20. And there's just one more car on the lead lap. That would be Paul Bishop, car number 18. And I think he's got enough ground that I don't think that Mulbrodin's going to get to him here with only a tick under 7 minutes of racing to go, Jack.
No, I think he has got that time in hand because Mo Broughton comes around the final corner now, and Paul Bishop going into the first corner. We're going to go back up to Colin Byrne and Misha. I think, there we go. So Mike Risha, pardon me, going onto the back straight, and Colin Byrne just behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time lost for Byrne. So let's see what happened. All sideways going onto the most important corner on the circuit. That's going through Apple. We'll have another look. Tell us what you see, Sue.
And that's Jacobson who goes to round him. And then he brings it back out. I'm talking about Colin Byrne as he brings it back out. That's Mike Risha who goes underneath him. And then if we stay on it, there is a drag race with him and Krenna down the back straight here. So let's stay on it. There goes Risha. And now here comes Kremer. And by the time Byrne gets it back up, Kremer's going to get that spot as well. So it ends up being 4 positions.
Yeah, so one slight mistake, and we've said it so often, just to make sure you know what we're on about. But the most important corner on the circuit, Atwood curve, going onto the lash, the really long back straight, and it just shows how important it is because Colin Byrne losing all those positions there, down into P12, but he's looking up the inside here of Kramer. Can he get the position made going through turn 1? Got the inside at turn 1, but that will quickly evolve into the outside at Williams, and no, he has to once again drop back and let the position slide, but Kramer still holding on there. Very busy defence from Kramer at the moment, and I think these are probably the closest cars we've got out on circuit at the moment.
Let's go to 8th, car number 10, because I think he is in jeopardy here of Roger Morden. If Morden wants him, he could have him, but boy, car number 25, the trailing car, just does not seem to want to close in and get him as they head into the hairpin. Roger, you're only going to get a couple more bites of the apple. That's probably going to be your best passing zone. Now he's pulled up just a car length behind. This is a nice battle for 8th.
It is indeed, and with very little time of the race still to go, just over the 4-minute range remaining. Roger Morton looking this way and that, trying to get by. But it looks like Brian Levitt is driving the widest Skip Barber in the world at the moment, going through the final sector of the circuit. He's quick in the points he needs to be. He's quick coming out of the slow corners, and then quick going onto the corners that lead onto long straights, leaving Roger Morton with a very big job to do. And now we go through the final corner, and look, he's got that gap up, got that cushion, just so Roger Morton has got to keep his foot to the floor, and he might not be able to get the position made going into turn 1. So it's great driving to see from Levitt.
Morden clearly faster, but faster in the technical section where it's hard to pass. Getting great drives off those corners that lead onto the long straight. Let's stay on this now as they go through the sweeping left-hander. This is corner number 2. Let's see if Morden can get any type of run down here into Atwood. I think he's too far back. With 3.5 minutes of racing to go, we've been jumping it around, so let's stay here a little bit and see what Roger can do out of Atwood. Last time he had nothing for him. Jack, let's see what he does this time.
Yeah,
looks better.
Going through Atwood curve, you can see he does have a bit of a run there, but I'm not sure it will be enough. We've got a lot of straight to churn through. We've got a couple of back markers, I think, up the road. Actually, no, that's Jack Chi, who's just up the road, and he might not be aware of the battle going on behind him. And Roger Morton, once again, not being able to pick up the position. He's much closer going into the hairpin, but like we said, Brian is so much quicker in the important parts of the circuit. So the number 10 Valvoline continuing on in 9th position. This is continuing on in 8th position, pardon me. This is a 2-car battle for 8th position. But Brian not quite managing to drive slow enough for Roger. Roger's looking to work his way past every single corner, but look at that, he's just not got enough. Once again, going through the going through the last half of the circuit, Roger Morton is a little bit closer. But then look, Brian builds that gap up once again, going through the final corner. He's got that gap, he's got that cushion, and it's comfortable enough for him just to take it easy. He has got the draft assistance of, I think, who is that just in front? I think that is Alex.
That's Alex gratis in there, and he's racing in 21st position. Now this may play a factor. We've been on this for a while. That car going off, that's Jake Agee. That was for position. That's a mistake from the 77, who was just ahead of these guys and to go the first corner. That'll cost him 2 spots.
Will indeed. So although Roger has been looking to work his way up into P8, now he's going to be doing all the work to get up into P7. Look at that late on the brakes, a big lockup on the inside, and he's much closer this time by. He's almost alongside already, going onto the back straight, cuts across the nose a little bit, does Levitt, but Roger has to tuck back into the draft. But if he can get that little bit of overspeed going into the hairpin, he might just get the position made, and I think we might be going on to the final lap this time by. So this is the most important part of the race, up the inside into the hairpin, late on the brakes. He's got the position made for the moment, but can Levitt do anything on the exit? He's almost got his nose in front. I think there's still a slight overlap. Great defending from Levitt, elbowing him out to the edge of the circuit. So Roger Morton, he got the position made for a fraction of a second, but he's dropped back once again. This is great racing.
Boy, he had him, but he just couldn't finish the job. Meanwhile, I believe our leader is on the white flag lap now as he works his way through Atwood down the back straight for the final time.
It does indeed, but this battle is still raging on. Brian Levitt just about holding off Roger Morton. He will see the white flag this time by, so going on to the final lap, pardon me. This will be lap 23, I believe, lap 23 and the final lap. So the number 10 car still in front, but look how close Roger Morton is this time by. I think he's been assessing where Brian is quicker. He looks to the inside late on the brakes. You can see the car squirming on the brakes, a little bit of unsettlement, and I think he's lost a little bit too much time there, and I don't think he'll be able to recover unless he gets a great run through Williams and the Moss S's. But Stoop, over to you just to call the final parts of the race.
Our leader just around Hobbs right now, heading down into Mike Knight's corner. We will come back and pick up that battle farther back, but we'll cover the leaders coming across as he heads out of the last corner. This is the 5th edition of the Snail Racing Community Race, and it's going to go to Pete Mabrotten. No surprise there. Let's jump back to see how Roger Morton's doing. We're going to go to P5 first as we look at James Crook in a battle.
Yeah, so James Crook, the number 78, I think he might have just lost out to Pedersen on the final lap. So the number 5 Blue Machine has just picked up P5 overall, but I'm not sure whether this is going to last for long, because we're now going into the Redmond hairpin before linking it towards the Hobbs hairpin, and he's just about fending off the attentions of James Crook. But these guys will know it is the last lap, and everything is to play for here. James Crook looking for the inside. Go on to
a good run out of the final corner. The start-finish line is so far down the straight, there might be enough time for him to get there, but that's not the exit that Crook needed. He's 2 car lengths back, and he will not be able to close. Give 5th position to Pedersen. Crook will have to settle for 6th. Now a jump back to Levitt and Morton as they come across the line, and it's going to be Levitt who gets it. Morton, try as he might, will have to settle for 8th position. 17 cars on the lead lap. I don't see any other battles of consequence out there. Let's go ahead and pick up Annie real quick, Director. Car number 005.
I think one thing we are going to have to look at is Jake Achie. He's in P11, the number 77 machine. He's ran out of fuel. He's shaking the car violently from side to side, trying to get some fuel going through the bump. Look at this, round the final corner. I think he might just make it on momentum. He might have to ask for a tow, but this is lots and lots of positions lost for him on the final lap.
There goes 2 positions right there as Burr goes by, and well, that's 1 position for Burr.
Yeah, so that's Paul Bishop now screaming by, Jerome Attani and Niels Burr, and I think Hendrik Andersen also picked up a position there. Jake Achie still on his way to the line, clutching. I'm assuming that's in neutral as well, just trying to get it to the line. You can see he's in pure desperation. I'm sure he is red in the face at this point, trying to get to the line, slowly getting there, and this is one of the most eventful ends to a race I've ever seen.
It is Snail Racing after all. Let's stay on this until he crosses the line. And he is that the line there? No, it's the next one up here. Come on, baby. Scooting up in his chair, using his Flintstone feet And that'll do it. That's some exciting broadcasting there. All right, the racing is over clearly, but our broadcast is not. We'll take a short break. We'll come back and run down the entire finishing order, talk to some of the drivers before we put a lock on the gate. Back in a few.
So after 40 minutes of wheel-to-wheel racing here at the Okayama International Circuit, we do have some results for you, and you've got to say the drivers definitely worked hard for all the positions they managed to gain throughout that race. Lots and lots of close racing, lots of different strategies we saw on show, but eventually it was Pete Morberton who took top honours in that race to the tune of 18 seconds, so a dominating drive from Pete. Then P2 is Ras Fiori, and Marcus Tainton rounds out the podium. Fourth position was Charles Kellyman. Dennis Pedersen finished in fifth. James Crook finished in sixth. Brian Levitt in seventh. Roger Morton sadly couldn't quite pick up the position and ended up finishing P8. Mike Riescher finished in ninth position, and Dennis Jakobsen rounds out your top 10. Colin Byrne, after an eventful race, crossed the line in 11th. Arjun Kramer finished in 12th. Kevin Vollman finished in 13th. Niels de Boer finished in 14th. And Jerome Etani finished in 15th. Jake G just about managed to cross the line with very little fuel left in his Skip Barber. He managed to cross the line in 16th. Then we get to Annie Rabbit finishing in 17th. Paul Bishop in 18th. Darren Bartz in 19th. And Alan Toon rounding out your top 20. And then we go back to Alex Georgiadis finishing in 21st. Sean Raindle, finishing in 22nd. Hendrik Anderson 23rd. Michael Jones in 24th. D Smith in 25th. Larry Rabbit in 26th. And Timothy Fizz rounds out your finishes. I think he retired very early on, finishing in 27th position, but one hell of a race and very, very busy for everyone involved. Let's see if we have any interviews waiting. We do indeed. We have our winner, Pete Morberton. Pete, welcome to the commentary box here on the Global Sim Racing channel. That was one hell of a race. You seemed to dominate it from start to finish. What separated you from the crowd?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm actually one of the instructors for Snail Racing's Race to Learn. So a lot of this field was students for me. So there's kind of an expectation of pace there. But I've seen a lot of these guys have improved from being 5-6 seconds back to what I saw today. We had some folks charging up the field from I think 24th, 25th, up to midfield. So I think the whole field really did really, really well here. For my part, it was just kind of heads down, stay consistent, hit the lines, the same things that we're preaching every Saturday in that Race to Learn program.
Well, it was really, really good to see such a big grid as well. Lots and lots of wheel-to-wheel racing. And we saw you had the attentions of Ras Fiori towards the start of the race, but you managed to shake him off. Was it ever a worry thinking that you would have Fiori on your tail going into the first few stages of the race?
Sure. Before the green flag, that was certainly my primary concern. Is in several sessions we've been on track before, and Ross definitely has the pace to be able to hang with me and draft with it being so pronounced in these Skip Barber cars. So I was actually a little bit surprised that I was able to break the draft that quickly. I figured we'd probably have ourselves a pit strategy battle or similar, but I got a little bit lucky. He made a mistake that was worth a couple of tenths, and I was able to shake him out of just some pure luck and capitalizing. So thankful for that.
Well, you did a brilliant, brilliant job and managed to take top honours. While you are here in the commentary box for the Global Sim Racing channel, is anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Again, Larry and Annie for running an absolutely lovely, positive, and very effective educational program targeting a really wide range of skill for new and old hat Skippy drivers alike. They bring a really positive, warm community that's committed to helping each other out, and I'm very thankful to be able to be a part of that.
Brilliant stuff, and thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box. And once again, a massive well done for finishing P1 this evening.
Thanks, Jack.
That was Pete Warburton, our eventual P1 finisher, and we will bring in our eventual P4 finisher, Charles Kellyman, after a race which it looked pretty different there. You started in 6th position, got your way up into 4th, and stayed towards the pointy end of the field, and the gaps were just so big at the front, it didn't look like you had much to do. You did have Pedersen slowly catching you throughout the race, but he didn't really have much for you. What sort of kept you up there after a good start? Was it just more damage limitation, or was it all
that's what it was really. I had a pretty good start really. I managed to stay with the front runners for at least a lap, I think it was. But then I was trying to hold on to Marcus Tayton because I know he's pretty quick. But he overtook the guy in front of him, and I didn't have an opportunity to do the same. And then once he got in front, he just pulled away then. So it was pretty tough going. But it was a bit of a lonely race, most of it. But like I say, damage limitation, really.
Well, throughout the race, you did have James Crook hounding you around.
Yes.
It wasn't to a massive extent. I'm sure you could see him on your Delta and in your rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Was that something that was sort of playing on your mind, knowing full well if you make a mistake, he is there to pick up the pieces?
Yeah, because at the start-finish line at every lap, I was checking my relative and just seeing, how much he's closing in on me. And I had made a couple. I think I had one off track. I was getting some glitches in my headset. I think it's an internet connection problem. So I lost a little bit of time, and like I said, I had one off track, and all it takes is one slight mistake, and you lose a couple of attempts, and it can make all the difference. That all that adds up. So it was trying to minimise the mistakes as much as I could, and not let Marcus get too far ahead of me.
Well, you did a great job nonetheless, and once again, a massive well done on finishing P4. While we've got you in the commentary box here on the Global Sim Racing channel, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, obviously Annie and Larry. They're doing an absolutely fantastic job over on Twitch, on YouTube, and the community races are getting bigger and bigger, as you can see. They're doing, like I say, doing a fantastic job, and props to them.
Well, thank you very, very much for joining us in the commentary box this evening. Once again, another well done on finishing P4, and I'm sure we'll see you out on the track very, very soon.
Take care. Thanks, Jack. Bye-bye.
That was Charles Kellyman there, finishing in P4, and obviously she's got to come into the commentary box at some point this evening. Annie Rabbits, welcome to the GSRC commentary box. That was a busy evening for you, wasn't it?
Hi, good evening. Yeah, it was an interesting, interesting race. I was obviously the snail on the track, but yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun. I just hope everybody enjoyed it and everybody had a good race. It was also the first time that Larry and I got to be on the track at the same time, but unfortunately he had to withdraw due to daddy duties.
Oh, it's such a shame, but I didn't know that, so I'm sure it's a very out-of-body experience almost, racing with Larry. And speaking of experiences, it looks like Okayama brought a new experiences to the drivers, because we saw a few little mistakes where maybe you wouldn't expect to see drivers make mistakes. But is that just the challenge of this car on this track?
No, yeah, I think it's just it's various. I think it's various things. People, they because our community, people are driving different cars, not necessarily the Skippy. So the Skippy might be new to some of the folks that joined the race tonight, and they're not too familiar with the car. So I think that's a factor as well. And I know there's a few oval folks that joined the Skippy race tonight, so they're definitely not used to the road. So I think it's a couple of factors that played into the race tonight. But it was still good fun, and they still enjoyed it in Discord, so it was all good.
Well, it was great to watch as well. There was definitely lots of action to keep up with, and obviously this being your fifth community race, surely this is it. It must have some sort of mothering feeling for you, because you've built up this community with Larry, and just seeing how well it's going and what a great community you've built up. It must almost bring a tear to your eye.
Well, yes, but I have to say, it's not just Larry and I. I mean, a community is not without its members, and it's not Larry and I that's building the community. It's the community building the community. It's each and every member of the Snail Racing community that's making it what it is. So it's definitely a team effort and not just a Annie and Larry effort.
Definitely, I couldn't agree with you more, and it's great to see that such a great community has come together to race here this evening. But while we do have you in the commentary box for the final time this evening, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out while you're live on the Global Sim Racing channel?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys and Sean and your team for being professional as always and for a fantastic broadcast. And then I would like to thank the Snail Racing community for all the fantastic support they've shown Larry and I over the past year and making this whole experience a fantastic one for both of us. And then last but certainly not least, I want to thank Larry because Larry puts a lot of effort in a lot of things at the background that people don't always appreciate or know about. So from wife to husband, I want to say thank you to Larry as well.
Brilliant stuff. And once again, a massive thank you for joining us in the commentary box, and well done for completing the race this evening. Sadly, we did see a couple of retirements, but once again, massive thank you for joining us in the commentary box, and I'm sure we'll see you out on circuit very, very soon.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, Jack and Soup and Sean and the team for a fantastic broadcast. Thank you.
That was Annie there, our eventual P17 finisher, part of the Annie and Larry team. And a massive well done to all the competitors that took part this evening. And also, we've got to say thanks to the Snail Racing community, especially Annie and Larry, obviously, for organising the event and for contracting with GSRC to broadcast it. We know you have a lot of choices when it comes to sim race broadcasters. Thanks for flying GSRC this evening. Thanks to the companies, equipment and software that you see on screen now that we use on our broadcast. The original music that gives every GSRC production that unique flavour and feel is thanks to Jude Lalonde. See the screen for contact information on screen now. We are showing some of the upcoming broadcasts, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. If you'd like more information about GSRC, including a complete list of future broadcasts, you can find it all at www.globalsimracingchannel.com. We are also on Twitter at GSRC channel, Facebook, which is #Global Sim Racing channel, and on Instagram at GSRC_gram. And while you're here, if you haven't done it yet, become a GSRC subscriber by simply hitting the button on this YouTube channel. And hey, if you're looking for a gift for that person that has everything, go check out our merchandise store at gsrc.store.nvy.com. And finally, on behalf of the entire crew, Soup, Sean, and Dougie, and myself here, I'd like to thank all of you for watching. And with that said, we're off. Have fun storming the castle. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.